Welcome back to Fan Talk. I'm David.
I'm Simon. Well, this week we're going to cover the movies that opened over the weekend of July 26th through 28th. There wasn't a whole lot of movement from the previous week where Lion King dominated with their $191 million opening for domestic. This last weekend, and some of these numbers are just in because we're recording at the end of the weekend, and the final numbers will be released tomorrow morning, but they're usually pretty close on their final estimates. Lion King came out on top again with a $75 million domestic U.S. North America second weekend. That's a pretty good second weekend. It's very strong. Most movies would love to open to $75 million, much less have a second weekend.
Right.
So I think that's going to... They had a big drop opening weekend to this weekend, but that's to be expected on this kind of thing because you open huge and then it goes into the normal pattern. I think after this we're going to see the usual like family and animated style comes in where it's only about 30 to 40% drops, because also with the exception of the Rock and Jason Statham movie coming out this weekend, there is no big competition and no more huge family movies coming out until the end of the summer, so it's got time to breathe.
Yeah, to just run its...
Yeah, and it's an enjoyable movie. I think it's going to get a lot of repeat business. Wasn't as going back to my thoughts on it, still wasn't as good as the original, but it was good. It was fine. It was just fine. Second place is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
For a 2-hour, 45-minute movie, opening up second with 40 million. That's pretty impressive because usually longer movies, they just don't have they can't physically put them in the schedule as many repeat times during the day.
Yeah, so it doesn't accumulate as much. This is his biggest opening weekend ever, isn't it?
Yeah, it beats out Inglourious Bastards by 2 million. The numbers hold. And it was in 2009 and opened to 38 million and went on to total 120 million. So this, if it has the same kind of legs, will be probably do at least that. We'll see if it goes on track to catch up with Django Unchained, which made 160 domestic overall.
Yeah,
but it's off to a solid start.
It's on par to potentially be Quentin Tarantino's best movie as far as money goes, anyways.
Right. Third spot, Spider-Man hanging in tough, for several weekends now. It just crossed the $1 billion threshold, being the 40th movie in history to do that in raw numbers. So, hats off to the Spider-Man crew at Sony.
And it's now the best Spider-Man movie
best
ever.
Yeah, it is best. It is definitely the highest earning.
It's the highest earning Spider-Man movie
without
of all
inflation.
time.
Yeah, it is definitely the highest earning. It's made more money worldwide than the Raimi trilogy, The Amazing Spider-Mans, or Homecoming.
Yeah.
I guess we shouldn't call Endgame a Spider-Man movie because that would ruin that.
That would definitely ruin that.
Speaking of which,
I'm just
going to do a shout out to Endgame. It's now $4 million over Avatar with $2 billion, that's with a B, 793 million and some change, and Avatar $2,789,000,000, so 4 million difference between the two and counting now.
Yeah, and counting.
So
and counting.
That will only grow wider.
Yeah.
Until Avatar is re-released, and we do this all over again.
Yeah, and we'll see.
Coming in after Spider-Man, Toy Story 4, just chugging along. It's 917 million worldwide. Made 9.8 million last year. Last weekend. This weekend. Yeah, I didn't make any money last year. It's people criticize it or said like, oh, it had a soft opening or whatever. It's doing exactly what they thought it would do. It's on par to make more than Toy Story 3. It's a family animated Pixar Disney movie. It's just gonna keep making money every single weekend. And like Lion King, it doesn't have any other competition other than what's already out.
Yeah. So it's basically going to be Lion King and Toy Story 4
for the family fair, children fair movies. And it could make $1 billion. We'll see on that one, but it's doing just fine. Coming in after that is Crawl, which seems to be one of the more breakout of the horror movies that have come out this summer.
Well, I like to see this happen, but for a horror movie to stay in the top 10, more than a couple weeks in the summer, I think is a strong thing. The good thing about it is you look at how much they spent to make the movie. Versus
13 million.
13 million. And
45 million
45 million total and still climbing. So,
right.
It was a big success, and you can tell whenever something like this happens, we're going to see more movies like
word
this.
of mouth really helps on these kind of movies.
Yeah, so...
After that is Yesterday, the Beatles themed movie. Likewise, it's doing very well for itself on a $26 million budget. It's now crossed the $100 million mark, and still chugging along. It's doing quite well. It's definitely made its money back, and I think because of that, we're going to keep seeing these musician themed movies coming out. Like, we had Bohemian Rhapsody, then the Rocket Man, now yesterday, and we even have some more coming out soon. So
Teen Spirit comes out in another 2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of movies that musician kind of themed movies, but those kind of films have historically done fairly well. I mean, if you think about it, it wasn't too long ago that we had another stream of those kind of films coming out.
That's true.
But by far, Bohemian Rhapsody and
I'm looking forward to the Osborne one.
I'll go see that. Ozzy.
Sharon. After yesterday was Aladdin. Been there since mid-May now. Just another one that's just been chugging along. I mean, it's made $2.7 million last weekend. It's dying off, but it's made its money. It's also crawled across $1 billion.
Yeah.
And so it's now the 41st movie to join that club. And
good year for Disney.
Yeah, which guarantees we're going to see more live action.
Oh, well, they've already said it's all fair game. I don't think they're going to stop until they run out of cartoons. But
there's a few that I know they probably won't make, or we might see a very weird rendition of it, like Pocahontas is very it crosses a few lines that probably wouldn't want to be crossed anymore, especially in a live action setting. So both with the colonial Indian aspect, and then or Native American aspect, and then also with the fact she was 13.
Yes, yeah, I got you.
So, but I think I saw Sword in the Stone is coming, but it might be a digital release. That'll be I'm looking forward to that one. I really like that one.
Well, with Disney Plus coming out, there's a lot of stuff that they can do that might just go straight to their streaming network.
Well, Lady and the Tramp is coming out this Christmas, and it's going straight to streaming.
So I mean, and that's good for everybody. I mean, it's they're saying Disney Plus is going to be $7 a month, so it's very inexpensive.
It's like,
and
I gotta get it.
And there's going to be a lot of content out there that you're going to want to watch, especially if you're into the Marvel films. I mean, Disney owns so much now; it's kind of hard to steer away. So
so it's going to be gotta get Netflix still, and gotta get Disney, and after that maybe you have a third choice, and we'll have to go in more in depth on.
Yeah, I actually have been crunching numbers and all that. I'm going to do a video probably next week where we can talk about all the different streaming networks out there, who has what on it, what's the best bang for your buck. I think that's something that people
depending on what you're interested in.
Yeah, I think it's something people really enjoy. I haven't seen a lot of people really break it down, and I've put a lot of time into it, so I'll release that so everybody can kind of have at least some input on it.
Okay. Well, returning to the top 10, Stuber with Dave Bautista has been just every week has just been dropping out 3 or 4 more, and I feel sorry for it, but it didn't find an audience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these movies, I mean, we've said before, I say it again, I like these kinds of movies, the action comedies. They're funny.
Maybe they shouldn't be a summer release. Maybe that's like a good February movie or.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it was competing with a lot of stuff, and I feel like right now. What audience are wanting to see when they think of an action movie? They're wanting to go towards more of that John Wick kind of action. Those
either they want hyper realistic or they want capes.
Yeah, and so it just might not be the right time for these movies. Then again, it might studios might experiment with trying to release them around different times of the year, and competing with what they're competing with this summer has been tough anyways. But I don't think that these kind of movies have historically done well the last several summers. So
it's true. Number 9, Annabelle, the sequel. Mm-hmm. Doing very well, 207 million worldwide, which puts, if I'm not wrong, on track to get in the same ballpark as the first Annabelle movie.
Yeah, which, in my opinion, again, speaking of horror films, kind of speaks light years about the movie, and that people are still really enjoying the genre. Because if you think it's doing as good as the first Annabelle movie, which was released in October originally, this movie is keeping up at that pace, and it's a summer release. And again, I can't stress enough that horror movies statistically are going to do much better released in the fall months leading up to and after.
It seems like a lot of different studios have the same idea about dropping this counter programming in the middle of the summer. Like, okay, well, everyone's going to be seeing the family and actions. Why can't we drop a horror and get the people that don't want to watch shows? It might work to a point, but they might have overdone it this year.
And you know what? And it's smart. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can go a long time and not see any horror movies, and then they all come out at once. And there are those people that really budget their movie watching. Like you and I we go to the movies a lot. I
Yeah.
spend a lot of money going and watching films. That being said, there are people that have
Go once
smaller
or twice a year.
budgets. They go once, twice a year. So if they're going to watch a horror movie and they go in October and then they don't have another option until next October, then they might not go to the movies.
True.
So
Rounding out the top 10 is The Farewell, the latest movie involving Awkwafina from a lot of the same crew that did Crazy Rich Asians from last year.
yeah,
It had a limited release about a week or so ago, and it went added theaters this weekend, and now it's up to 135 theaters. So it made 1.5 million dollars this weekend.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about per theater, is amazing.
yeah.
To get to the top 10 on the United States domestic chart.
With how many theaters?
With 135 theaters. Or
that,
screens.
that's packing some theaters.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
that
I
is
read
packing
actually
some
even broke
theaters.
some endgame records for how much it made per theater.
Yeah, that's putting some bodies in chairs.
I
man.
think look for a much wider release in the coming week because
Yeah.
we're going to see this and be like, add more screens.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
getting
it'd be
good word of
foolish
mouth.
not to. But I mean, also, I mean, like Crazy Rich Asians. That was a great comedy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that movie a lot, and so it speaks for itself. I mean, you don't add theaters; you're just taking money out of your pocket.
Yeah, I look at these these weekly charts pretty often, and you see this percentage drop from last weekend to this weekend, or this time last week, this time
They
this
never
week.
go up.
They almost never go up.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time you see them go up is when they're adding theaters, which goes from a limited release to a wide release, which also isn't guaranteed because most limited release movies are limited for a reason, to qualify for award seasons, to satisfy certain guilds, and for this certain niche things that are individual to each movie. But for it to actually just steadily grow into then a wide release only happens maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
happened twice this year so far.
and that used to actually be the more traditional release schedule. Like back in the 50s and 60s, they would start a movie, New York, LA, and then it would just slowly just release across the U.S. over
Yeah.
the course of months. And like a movie like Sound of Music, it made a ton of money, but it didn't do an opening weekend. There was no big opening weekends back then. It was, they start gradually add theaters over time, and it just kept going and going and going. And there'd be, each movie house might have, 10 different movies playing, like one for each theater, versus now we're on an opening weekend, 7 theaters are the same movie. And then it just drops to like one theater the following weekend because a new one's entered.
Yeah,
And so it's just interesting how that's changed over time, but you still see one like that kind of breakthrough.
yeah.
Gives hope for us all that want to actually, look at for these small indie movies that actually make it big.
Yeah, and I like to see that. I like to see that sometimes you see, like, even for instance, Crawl. You can make a movie for a low budget and produce a superior product these days without spending a ton of money, and the crowds come out and watch it, and that's always good.
I'm looking forward to seeing, a $13 million budget for Crawl, circling back to that for a second.
Yeah.
$13 million budget. I'm looking forward to seeing how that was spent when creatures were involved, like how much CGI, how much, puppetry, real world effects were used. I mean, it's not a high enough budget for CG. So I'm really curious to see how some of that was done.
Yeah.
But looking ahead to next weekend, we have the Fast and Furious 9. Hobbs and Shaw. With The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and Jason Statham.
Yep.
Also starring Idris Elba. Looking forward to it. Actually, I'm actually a fan of that series. I think they're fun.
No, I enjoy the Fast and Furious, like the first couple films. The first film. No, but I actually like the movies. I love the actors. It's a lot of fun. With anything, even like with the horror genre, which I love, it's like the sequel after sequel after sequel. And I guess, it's different when you have some movies like Mission Impossible and James Bond, where it's
Well, the Bond one's like, each one's a standalone movie,
Film.
more or less.
Yeah.
And it just takes like all these little ingredients and just remixes them different ways. Mission Impossible is, we all want to see Tom Cruise just somehow not die again.
right, and how
then-
extreme
Yeah.
it will get.
Like, okay, what's going to do this time?
Well, it's like in this movie, from the preview spoilers, but it's like, where are all the guns? And they're like, oh, I got rid of those. And it's like, oh, so this one we don't have any guns. There's just a bunch of guys fighting with spears and like nunchucks in the lawn.
We'll see how that works
We'll
out.
see how it works out. But
But this the whole line of the arc of the Fast and the Furious series to me has been interesting. It started off like as a standalone, the Fast and the Furious, fun movie. It's kind of like out there with the Same Time as Gone in 60 Seconds and all these other car movies, and it was a fun one. And then they did Too Fast, Too Furious, which didn't even have Vin Diesel in it. It just seemed like it was going to be a typical sequel, drop off, and it was still fun to introduce Ludacris's character and Tyrese, and it was starring Paul Walker. Third one, Tokyo Drift. Didn't have anybody in it from the other ones, and that felt like a direct-to-video kind of release, except for the Vin Diesel cameo at the back end, which he agreed to do to get the rights to Riddick.
Yeah,
and all those little stories in it are fun. And then they came out with Fast and Furious, which is like almost like a soft reboot, and they basically just went back to Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, and it was a kind of a fun little one, but it wasn't over the top. And then they had the Fast and Furious 5, and that was still the best one, where they okay, let's bring all the different characters from all the different versions and make a team out of it, and just make it an over-the-top heist movie. Yeah. And it was fantastic. I mean, it was completely different than the first movie. Yeah. And it just went so overboard and knew what it was doing. It was having fun with itself, too. And then the 6, 7, and 8, which followed that same formula, and just doing different things with it. And if you just want, fast cars, action movies, it's worth it.
And if you like those kinds of films, and like I said, I for somebody who enjoys those kinds of films, I really like knocking on the Fast and the Furious films, because it's like, which one is this, 13, 18? I don't know. But realistically, I mean, I love a lot of the actors.
They are easy to knock on, but they're also fun.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean...
And this one will be fun, too. It's going to be the same. I mean... The Rock and Jason Statham. It's gonna. They had great chemistry in the last.
People are gonna get beat up. It's gonna be fun, So.
But also coming out this weekend, and a digital and also a limited release is Madness in the Method. I keep wanting to reverse that to be the actual saying. Method in the Madness.
Method in the Madness.
Madness in the Method, directed by Jason Mewes.
Yeah, which is exciting. We watched the reaction video, which I'm just gonna take a second and say this. So we do our reaction videos. We generally talk through them. A lot of that is because we're creating our own style, like how we do things. And we're making comments and joking around about it. But that one we actually watched for the first time together. And I'm excited. I love Kevin Smith and that whole group of characters, and it looks funny.
Yeah, it looks like a kind of a mockumentary style of a movie, very self-referential, has a very final Stan Lee cameo in it.
Which that's what got me when I was watching the trailer. I know, it's like, oh my god, that's really him. It was like, when did this happen? Yeah. So.
Yep, they couldn't put one in. Spider-Man, but Jason Mewes got the last one, which was in Kevin Smith, which I think was fitting in a way.
It is fitting in a huge way.
Yeah. But yeah, tons of cameos in it because it's made by these cats. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it comes out close to us. Otherwise, we'll have to look for it on video on demand and see what we can catch from there. But yeah, next week we'll probably be talking more about how Hobbs and Shaw opened up. Hopefully it'd be interesting if Lion King doesn't drop too much, and if Hobbs and Shaw opens not quite as strong as they're going. It could be an interesting toss-up for first place next week. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
See what's going on.
I'm not expecting a whole lot of changes in the lineup from there.
Yeah. Well, and I also just take a quick minute before we wrap this up and remember Rutger Hauer. He passed away last week at the age of 75. Rutger Hauer, a lot of people like my age are going to remember him from a lot of movies I grew up with. He's in Lady Hawk. He was in... Wanted Dead or Alive, Flesh and Blood.
Blade Runner, obviously.
Blade Runner is one of his most iconic roles. He played Roy Batty in that film as one of the replicants, and he had a very awesome scene at the very end of the film. And a lot of people don't know this. Well, I guess they do if you look it up on the internet now. Yeah. But he actually improvised a lot of those lines at the end, and it kind of rocketed his career. And but some people, like the younger generation, you'll know him. He was a villain sub-villain in the Batman Begins. He was in the new movie Valerian. Mm-hmm. He got a lot of acclaim from that movie that was released called Hobo with a Shotgun. It was kind of a grindhouse film that did really, really well. But something interesting, I think, and kind of fitting in a way, is he passed on the 19th of 2019. And whenever
July.
Yeah, and whenever the movie was released... Blade Runner. Yeah, when Blade Runner was released, it was set in the year 2019. And so when he dies in the end of that film, it was 2019, and he really did pass at 2019 at the age of 75. So
life imitating art.
Yeah, and I mean, but he was a fantastic actor. go watch some of his back catalog. Some of that stuff is really great. Even holds true today. Some of those movies in the 80s, really, like Blind Fury, so fun. You like action movies? He's a blind guy walking around with a sword, and he has to rescue a kid. It's just a great, great movie. But anyways, he'll be missed.
Yep, and our thoughts to his family, and as 75 is a good life, but still these days, it's always sad.
Yeah, and but the cool thing too is that as an actor, one of the great things is your legacy. He lives all this behind, so in a way, he's immortal. He gets to live forever by the things that he has done. So,
right.
But
all right, well, well said. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See you around.